guess my question is, can we use Paul's method here as kind of a map, or, for lack of a better word, a formula for how to lead people when we need to get them to do what we do and influence them, as opposed to providing them incentives to do something, be that positive or negative, because that can seem to go in a bad place and become manipulation.
Right.
But maybe we just try to paint a picture for them of what is best for all parties involved.
Well, that, Wes, the idea of painting a picture is a good one, I think. Yeah, you're right. There's not a formula here. But there is this, part of what I think Paul winds up doing in the appeal that he gives here in verses 17 through 19 is painting a picture of the gospel in his own life and asking Philemon to consider how he can tell the same story in his own life. I mean, the language here is really extraordinary. He says, if he's done you any wrong, any injustice, and the root there is the word that that shows up in the theology of justification, that we have wronged God, and God has to bring us, has to right-wise us with respect to His law. And he says, if he's wronged you anyway or owes you anything, and like I think Philemon is supposed to get the idea of, okay, he wronged me, but I wronged God. He owes me, but how much more do I owe God? And Paul says, put it on my tab, impute it to me. And he uses the same root that he uses like in Romans to talk about God not imputing or holding against us our own righteousness, but imputing to us the righteousness of Christ. And so Paul is kind of stepping in between and saying, I'm willing to do for him what Jesus did for you and me, and that is to bear the cost. And then he says, not to mention that you owe me your very self. And I think this is sort of a New Testament version of the Old Testament's saying, you were slaves in Egypt, weren't you? And who's going to get you? How were you going to get out of that? Oh, you weren't, were you? That's why I had to come with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, and I brought you out. Now you're mine. Now look around you. Are there slaves in the land? How would people who have been brought out of slavery treat people who were enslaved? And then he uses the same logic for widows and orphans. You were fatherless, I became your father. You were orphans. You were orphans, I became your father. You were widows, and I brought you into relationship with myself. Now look around you at the widows and the orphans and care for them the way I cared for you. And this is what I was talking about before when I said Paul is giving Philemon the opportunity to take a step deeper into his own union with Christ in his death and his resurrection in him, and to basically consider in Paul's willingness to take the rap for Onesimus, the fact that Jesus had taken the rap for him, Philemon, and then to give up whatever Onesimus might owe him, and beyond that, to embrace him as a brother. I think there's just incredible pastoral wisdom here, and it's a great study in leadership that doesn't cross a line into crass manipulation and just using peer pressure and just ordering him around, but really wanting Philemon himself to own the right decision, and a decision that's beyond right, but which is really about stepping into a whole new eternal family relationship with a brother that he wouldn't have had, but now he has forever.